Hi everyone. In this video, I want to share some recent discoveries that my wife and I made that have us so amazed, so convinced that this upcoming Menorah watch season is where we're going to get raptured. And I don't have a script today. I'm not going to be reading. I'm just going to be sharing this because it's pretty involved and I just want to share very relatably, very personally, something that's very personal to us and very, very amazing. So amazing. So you guys are in for a treat. I want to start by just reviewing a few things. If you've been following my channel, you probably know that I believe that the biblical month begins with the full moon, not with the lunar conjunction. So that means that, we're coming up on Hanukkah. We have these two Hanukkahs actually we're looking at because, of course, God knows that modern man observes the month beginning with the lunar conjunction. However, biblically speaking, originally the full moon commenced the month. And so God recognizes the modern Hanukkah that we recognize. And of course, there's also a biblical Hanukkah. So I've got those terms, modern Hanukkah, biblical Hanukkah here. There's these 8-day periods. Both of them start on Kislev 25, the 25th day of the 9th month. And of course, we're looking at the 9th full moon after the spring equinox when we're looking for the beginning of the Kislev according to the biblical month. And I'm calling this whole thing from the beginning of modern Hanukkah to the end of biblical Hanukkah, the Menorah watch season. And this year it's very special. It's centered on December 25. And we talked about that a few videos ago. So I believe that, yes, the two moon dreams that people have had, many, many two moon dreams about the rapture, these are indeed pointing to 2 months, but in the sense that you have two reckonings of the month, right? Where either the full moon begins the month or the full moon is in the center of the month. These reckonings are both recognized by the Lord, and we should be recognizing them if we're looking for the rapture here at the end of 2025. That's how we're going to see the significance of the Menorah watch season. It's actually crazy significant this year. It's a very, very special system, pattern, and this year is more special than any other. I've shown that in a couple of videos ago. Now I want to review something else I've presented before about my one and only waking vision, the 6936 vision, where I saw the number 69 and then the number 36, and that was it. And I've found since then that those two numbers are my numbers. My goodness. They are so vastly significant in my watching experience and in my family. And I mean, like, for example, just a really personal one. If you add up the number of letters total in all the names of my immediate family, like first, second, third name of each member of my immediate family, my wife, my kids, and myself, if you add all of those letters up, it comes to a total of 69 plus 36 letters. Insane, right? Well, there's so many things in my life like that that have to do with 69 and 36. And I need to review that fact here so that you can see the awesomeness of what is now pointing us to the Menorah watch season. Now, the next thing I want to get into is the birth month of my wife, the month that she was born in. She was born in December of 1986, and that was, of course, containing a Hanukkah season. Hanukkah that year began on December 27, and it lasted all the way until January 3. And what's so amazing about that is that December 27 is our central anniversary. We actually had 3 weddings, and the central wedding was the most important one to us. So December 27, 2015, that was our wedding day, our big wedding day. And here it is beginning Hanukkah in the month that she was born. And then you go to the end of Hanukkah that same year, and it's my birthday, the birthday of her future husband. So Hanukkah was highlighting that year her future, or her future was highlighting Hanukkah, one or the other. So anyway, it's basically connecting her future, her married future, with Hanukkah. And that's interesting because Hanukkah's never been a big thing to us before. This is the first year where we've become massively excited about Hanukkah as a high watch. So, I mean, is this it, right? Now there's something else that's so amazing about her birth. She was born exactly 6,936 plus 3,669 days before her main wedding, her central wedding, December 27, 2015. That's insane, guys. What a revelation. I just realized this recently. And then I was born that same number of days before when we completed our move to Iceland. So right after getting married, we commenced this process of moving and settling in Iceland. It was quite a process. My goodness, moving to another country is quite the ordeal. It was basically a process that lasted all the way from when we first started moving in April all the way through to mid-January of 2017, April of 2016 to January of 2017. And by mid-January, we had unpacked all the boxes in the home that we now owned. We already had a car. We had a new baby. We were totally independent of her parents, and we were settled. We were totally set up. I had a full-time job. She had a full-time job. But it wasn't until then that we had all that, right? And we were somewhat dependent on her parents up until that point. So this is where we completed our move to Iceland. Now that's going to be really important later. And next I want to show you what I found when I looked more closely at the Hanukkah season that I was born in. Because I was born January 3, 1988. And I thought, is that in Hanukkah? Could that possibly be in Hanukkah? And in fact, it's not in the modern Hanukkah that year, but it is in the biblical Hanukkah. When I looked at that, I was amazed because biblical Hanukkah that year had the exact same Gregorian dates from December 28th through January 5 as the biblical Hanukkah of 2025. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. It's almost like God was sort of foreshadowing the biblical Hanukkah of 2025 with the Hanukkah I was born in. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if these were the only biblical Hanukkahs that corresponded with those exact same Gregorian dates? So I checked every single year. It took some time. Had to look up all the full moons in December, or actually the 9th full moons after the spring equinox, which you can do on fullmoon.info. But I found, somewhat disappointingly, that there was one other year in which this occurred, and that was 2006. In December of 2006, December 28 was the beginning of biblical Hanukkah. That's the only other year. So I thought, okay, interesting. And I went on about my business until I realized, oh my goodness, between my birth and the first day of the 2006 biblical Hanukkah, there are exactly 6,936 days. I thought that was just astounding. That was just like, wow. So, of course, that made me think, well, then when is exactly 6,936 days after that? And it just so happens to be the exact center of the Menorah watch season this year, which is my highest watch. I said that a couple of videos ago. December 25, the day we typically, traditionally celebrate the birth of the man-child to the woman, the man-child who was to be caught up unto God and to his throne. That day, the center of Menorah watch season, this year is exactly 2 times 6,936 days from the day of my birth. Mind-blowing. Just mind-blowing, right? But it gets better because I thought, well, okay, that's the center of Menorah watch season, but what if you start from the end of Menorah watch season and you try and find a significant way back to my birthday? Is there a significant set of days that gets back there? And indeed, if you go back from the end of Menorah watch season this year, 3,669 days, you get the day that my wife first moved in with me. And that was a Sunday that she was moving all of her things in with me in December 2015. This was before our main wedding, but it was after our first legal wedding. So then you go back from that 888 days. Exactly. Of course, that represents Jesus, right? The Greek gematria of the Greek word for Jesus is 888. You go back that number of days, And you get to that special day where God told me I needed to get married, July 14 of 2013. Insane. And I've done a video expressing how amazing that is and a whole system that plays off of that. Then you go back another 9,324 days and you get to the day of my birth. And of course, that number, what does that make a person like me think of? What do you think? September 23 and 24, of course. It was made to look like that. This is an entirely created system, obviously, by an infinitely intelligent God who planned my whole life out long, long ago. And the whole way it would interrelate with everything. And of course, I'm just sort of feeling along, discovering it a little bit at a time. But this system, like how my wife, her birth points forward to the day of her central wedding, and then in the same way, my birth points forward to, well, I actually have a slide of this, right? Her birth to the main wedding, my birth all the way to the day we finished moving in by the same day count. But then if you go from my birth all the way to 6,936 plus 6,936 days, you get to December 25, 2025. So the parallelism here is that December 25, 2025 is where our rapture process completes. Just like it's where my move to Iceland completed. Like this would be a great time to just go read Psalm 139. How wonderful are God's thoughts toward me. How amazing. How great is the sum of them, right? And he's set me before and behind. He's completely thought through my whole way. And he's been celebrating the day of my rapture my whole life in this incredibly subtle, deep way. So I believe this is it. I believe this is the end. The very, very end. And I think it's going to be Christmas Day. I really do. So I pray this was a blessing. I pray it made sense. If not, just let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer. God bless.